Thank you for your presentation. I guess the first question that I have is if you could just say a little bit more about what I think I am hearing is that the stakeholder engagement helped the students who come from different backgrounds understand a little bit more how they could fit into a transdisciplinary project. I guess I'm wondering if you have some sense of what about the engagement process helped to facilitate that for students, or like were there certain aha moments that happened because of certain conversations, or what about that process helped students figure out their own place as a disciplinary expert within a transdisciplinary project?
Allison may have some thoughts, and probably Anna does as well, and Louise, but I would say that it's the multiple perspectives. When I have students in a class, and sometimes in my particular class, those students will come from engineering, animal science, crop science, and maybe even environmental science. So they don't have the same background. They're listening to me, and as they go through the semester, they gain a perspective and a common understanding. But that's from one perspective, mine. Okay, and by engaging various perspectives from different stakeholder groups, not just individuals, but people that are representing different parts of the system, they're gaining, having those same conversations and gaining more insight from more than just me. I think that has a lot to do with it. Allison? Louise?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think one of the things that is challenging for these students is these teams were brought together on a voluntary basis. They came in, they were interested in the topic, and so they decided to join these cohort challenges. They weren't deliberately created like I need an economist and I need an animal scientist or anything like that. So getting to know each other and getting to understand the context of what they were working in was probably the biggest challenge they faced before they could even think about solving any problems. And so talking to different stakeholders, like I said, is part of what helped them kind of formulate that common language around the context of what it is that they were going to be working about, but also working with each other because they were coming in from different disciplines, and maybe their understanding of what something meant for, say, a social scientist might be completely different for somebody that's in bio and ag engineering. And they learned how to meld their understanding of these different concepts so that they could, really converse with each other. So there's a lot of feedback between the interviews that they would do with stakeholders. And each stakeholder, of course, was contributing something completely different as well. And then they would talk with each other about that, like, what did this mean? How did this contribute? What can we do with this? So did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Paula, for joining us today. I don't think we can address this question in 3 minutes, but I just want to raise that one of the things that I really hear here, another paradox, or maybe it's aligned with the paradox that was discussed, is kind of recognizing a tension in the goals of a funder like National Science Foundation to be thinking about basic research, and the goals of our partners as stakeholders or community members or rights holders in really on the ground applied solutions. And I assume that tension is something that you feel in your work. And again, I don't think that we could address it in 2 minutes, but it feels like to me that might be another topic for a session, is to really think about how do we integrate the best practices for solutions-based research into funding frameworks that are really focused on basic science innovations. And of course, if you have any comments on that, I would love to hear them.
I'll try. I'm not going to answer it completely, but from my perspective, it's about graduate education. And my perspective is as not only a researcher, but the director of graduate programs in my department. But I think it is graduate education. Yes, we are NSF wants to create new knowledge, but they also want to create new scientists and new engineers. And that's where that can be done while working on actual practical problems that have real solutions and not just published papers. I think that's an important part of that. Andy, it looks like he has a comment on that.
Not particularly. I mean, I'm really interested in exploring and this will be something that we can do on another occasion. Some of these key facets of stakeholder engagement across different types of education opportunities, such as the infuser, and clearly to me, from the presentation from Jiazan, there's a significant difference when you're working with people who are dealing with a disaster and a catastrophic event from some of the more protracted chronic fused issues that others of us work from. Most of my work has been in very small communities dealing with climate change effects, which are in some ways can be as catastrophic, but are kind of protracted, and the urgency is perhaps different, and I'm just thinking aloud that there quite likely are differences in how we engage, and the importance of approaches to flexibility and reflexivity in those different types of issues.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you all for your presentations today. I've really enjoyed this Infuser Takeover session. This has been really great, and gives us lots of insights into thinking about some of those similarities, commonalities, and real differences, as Andy is pointing out, in how we can best serve communities in our science and our applied work. So I want to thank you all for your time and be respectful of it. We've taken one more minute than we said we would, at least on my clock. So I hope you enjoy your afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you may be. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all too, and I'll just shout
Thanks
out
for running this. A lot of fun.
Thank you to Chelsea for facilitating, to Kinsey for logistics, and to all of you, Anna, Luis, Daniela, Jessan, Erin, John, and Alison for your presentations. This has been great, and maybe we can see some of the ideas continued in the Education Training Working Group.